chat room, come on in the chat room, everybody. Come on in. I know I said we're gonna start it. We had some technical issues. Y'all know how that goes when it comes to when we dropping that real information. So I want to thank y'all for coming up in here. We got a few in. What's the good, Solo Gibbons? Thank you for coming up in the house. We're gonna have a great discussion today. So I want to let y'all fill in that before I introduce my guests. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some Aboriginal American Indian history here for Black people. We're gonna talk where we come from, who we are. So open your minds. Please open your minds. Learn something new today, and we're gonna get it in. We are going to get it in.
You're listening to Hotep Ish with your host, Dewan B. Intelligent Ish Talk, intelligent shit talk, where we balance the profound with the profane.
Yes.
Political satire, celebrity and expert guests, information and entertainment, conversations and solutions. Leave your feelings at the door. You're listening to Hotep Ish.
Yes. We are here. Thank you, Kendra, for the voiceover. I want to introduce my guest, someone who, one of my favorite guests. Dr. Randy Short introduced us back before the summer started. And she gave one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite interviews I've ever conducted. She was part of, and she was the person that gave us the information. And she's here, and I want you guys to open your minds, open your ears for some real talk. We have Miss Deborah Ishki, Oklahoma. How you doing today?
Halito, I'm doing pretty good. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for re-inviting me.
Halito. For everyone here in the chat room, let me know if our volume is good. Let me know if you hear us fine. Let me know, because I want to make sure we have all of our information as clear as day. What's up, Mikhail in the chat room? What's up, Manifesto, Hot One, Solo the Great, J Elite? Thank you again. Grown Man Bars, Drayvon. Thank y'all for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Because if you look and see what's going on with Skype and everything, you know what we're talking about. You know this isn't the kind of video that they're gonna just automatically on YouTube push out there like that. So we need you guys to like the video. We need you guys to share the video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please put it out there. Send it on your Facebook. Tell people on Skype. Tell people on YouTube. Tell people on Instagram. Because we're gonna have a really, really, really good discussion today. Welcome back to the program. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
So
it's really good to be here. It's good to talk to your audience. Thank you.
There we go. And let us know, like I said, let us know in the chat room if you hear me. If you need any of us to turn up or down, let us know. We want to make sure we make it clear. Miss Oklahoma is someone who traces and understands our history here on this land. It's a part of our history that's been suppressed. To people with loyalty to Africa, I get it. You know what I mean? We all have it, because we all know at the end of the day we're people of the earth. So we're indigenous to all four corners of the earth. To say what we're talking about today, this is mining and going through our roots that are here. These roots that are here, they exist. They're long. They're very deep. And the years go back hundreds of thousands, millions here on this continent. So we're here to get more information and get deeper and deeper and deeper into that. Deborah, my first question to you is how did you get really into this information? And then from there, we're going to go for it. Just tell them how you started to uncover your roots here, and tell them what you do to help others and put the information out there. Let them know who you are.
Okay, well, yeah, Deborah Ishki, Oklahoma. I was born Deborah White, of course we have. But even White is a name that's synonymous to being Aboriginal to the lands. Your last names are your people who are synonymous to the lands. more than likely. But how I started was, I grew up knowing that I was Choctaw. My family moved from Mississippi, from Choctaw lands, now called Hinds County, Mississippi. And I grew up hearing stories all the time about what it was like to be on the land. My grandfather being a farmer, what it was like to go, as a farmer. And they talked about those things like he grew cotton. And of course, that's how they made their living. Although, you think about sharecropping, our people really got the bad end of that deal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so eventually, like most of us, when I started school, I began to hear these stories of Indians. And first, Indians were dead. They give you this picture of these Indians who didn't like slavery, so they all killed themselves because, of course, they were too strong to endure slavery. And so when you look at these pictures and the narrative of what you see as a child, they put the picture along with the story. Your mind sees a white person when they see the word Indian.
Yes.
So even though I was getting a totally different story at home, I was being indoctrinated in elementary school, like most of us. And then the story after that, when we came wise to that, the story was the Native American, because they attributed that name to these people who are trying to say that they are us. And, I kind of forgot my own history because I was endowed with theirs, or should I say, yeah. So, but then here's the thing. It just, it came to me one day. Why is it out of all the stories, the only thing we can find that documents this slave trade is chains? Where's the boat? The white man, he documents everything because he wants to make sure he owns everything. He wants to be able to say, here's our document, here's our agreement. And I couldn't find it. And then I started to do more research, and I realized that other people were doing more research. And from there, I found that my family, when I was looking for my mother also, because my mother was murdered and I was looking for her. And so when I found her, I found that my mother actually, every time I put her name in, her date in, it kept saying Choctaw Reservation.
Okay.
And I kept trying to get rid of it, going, well, that's not where she was. But then that is exactly where they were, on the Choctaw Reservation in Mississippi. And then all the things that I started to remember, all the things that my family told me about, which was my great-great-grandmother, who was a child, and she was on the other side of Pearl River on the Choctaw Reservation, and that there was a raid to take the land. And she hid in a rain barrel. These are the stories that we heard as children.
Okay.
And she hid in a rain barrel, and her father could not find her. But the Cherokee, who actually are, we're all blood, when they heard about the raid, they came across the Pearl River to look to see that everyone is all right. And they found my grandmother, Pearl. They took her back to the Choctaw lands. And of course, they located her father some years later, and he went back and got her. And that's how they ended up back on Choctaw lands. So that was an extensive story that we were told as children. That kind of came back to me. And then I started to do more research to find out who we were. Now I know that we're also a part of the Choctaw people in general, a part of the Mayan tribe.
Okay.
Or should I say clans, because tribe is not a word that is attributed to us. That's attributed to Inuits. And so that's kind of how it went. I hope I'm just being long-winded.
No, you're doing it because I'm over here right now. What I'm doing is I'm showing pictures from different national archives of how they documented, Aboriginal Americans, how they looked according to them. And how, you'll have people new to this information, and they're used to, the European looking, Aboriginal. And, then they'll see someone like that looks like us. And then when you look at the phenotype of these people, that when you look up in the archives of the Aboriginal Americans, They look a lot like our uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, brothers, and sisters. So for you to go down that rabbit hole and discover what you discover, because you said something very key. My family used to tell these stories, but I went to school and then I saw TV commercials and then we saw all the Cowboys and Indians movie and all of the Indians looked like Ben Affleck and with a wig. But it goes to show how we as a people, how the miseducation system, no matter how intelligent we are, especially when they get to us young, it can zap away some of the things we know true within our own families. And I wanted to make sure I highlighted that because, you know, it's a lot of people listening right now who have similar stories. I have a great grandmother who was Choctaw, who was Creek, who was Potawatomi, who was Afghan, all the different names. And then we'll discount that. And then what they do is they only highlight the slave trade. And this is what I want to make clear to people. I want to draw this image, and then I'm going to get back to ask you some more questions. But I want to paint a picture for the audience. Framing. When it comes down to how they frame narratives, just think of a picture. You have this picture, and on the picture it has a sky, it has a sun, it has mountains, it has grass, it has a city over here, it has a desert over there. All of that's on this huge canvas. You have the moon on this side. If you take a step back and see it all, you'll see a great, grand, beautiful picture with a little bit of everything being part of the picture. What they do is they narrow the framing of that picture down to just one of those scenes or two of those scenes. They put those two scenes together and they pound it and pound it and pound it and pound it as if those two scenes represent the whole. And so people will come in, and this is where the confusion and the arguments come in. People will be like, well, are you saying the slave trade didn't happen? What we're saying is this. One, there isn't as much as they save, there isn't as much information as we think they should have documented. So we're not saying it didn't happen, but we're saying is, we're questioning, did it happen on the level that they're saying it happened on?
Right.
And even when you read their documents, they say only 300,000 to 400,000 came from Africa. And by the 1880 census, it's tens and tens of millions of us here. That's not possible unless there's some word gameplay going on. But back to framing. They frame it down to this small part, blow it up as if it's the whole, and don't acknowledge the rest. And the most dangerous lie you can tell someone is a lie of omission, because you're omitting things that all play a part in the truth of the picture that we're seeing. They only show you the small part. And then now we have Miss Deborah Ishki, Oklahoma coming here telling us, hey, look at this side of the picture over here. This side of the picture is true too. To people who totally bought into that small linear framing narrative, it's going to be like slapping them in the face, waking them up like, what are you talking about? You're lying. This is all I know. This is true. And you're right. It is true. But it's not true on the scale that you're thinking about. It's true in this particular small, neat fitting box. But over here, this is true too. And oftentimes what's over here is much larger portion of the truth. So that's what I want to make sure to make clear when we're talking about this. There's a framing of it. And what we're here to do is to reframe the narrative so everyone can take a step back and see the whole picture.
And plus that too, it's not only the framing of the picture. Like something that I learned in practicing my sociology and going back into looking at books that talks about one particular book that talks about past encounters in America. Whenever you looked at these and they did frame it, there was always people who were slightly colorful. Like they never looked like us. The darkest person in those books were, well, brown or beige. So, even if And this is why we became very interested in writing our own textbook, because our children have never had the ability to see themselves, even as African. If they are from Africa, they're still Aboriginal people.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't the Aboriginal people look like them? When you go back and study the stories of our people and what the Aboriginal people of America look like, it's very clear. We don't look anything like those people who are claiming to be us. It talks about us. It says that we have copper colored skin. Everyone that talks about us in the 1600s, 1700s says the exact same thing. Dark to copper colored skin, small set eyes, fat noses that have, I think it's called aquiline nose, which means you have this peak at the bottom, like what you have, full lips, nappy to straight hair. It's very clear what we look like phenotypically. But now we have a group who calls themselves Native Americans who are claiming that they have been here all the time, when it is proven, even in their own words, that they came from somewhere else. What does that mean to us? They came from Siberia. What they're trying to trace is, how did they get here? But here's something else our government has even said in their documents, that the Aboriginal people have been on this continent since time immemorial. That is in their own documents about us. If we have been here since time immemorial, well, we didn't come here from somewhere else. We actually are like the flora and the fauna. We grew here from the soil. So this also, although it's hard to really comprehend that, because we've been given this whole we were created and a woman came from a man story, and before you back up from that, just listen to it, that would make us all men. And if we're all men, where does the womb fit in? So this is why with Aboriginal people, your lineage comes from the mother, not the father. That's why Jews say their lineage comes from the mother. That's why other people will say, well, my lineage comes from the mother. That if you're claiming that your lineage comes from the womb, then you're debunking that Eve came from Adam. Because what you would have, if a woman came from a cell of a man, she would be a man with a womb. Mm-hmm. Not the womb that gives birth. Those are two different things. That's a scientific fact. So what we've been inundated with and indoctrinated with is a bunch of false narratives that takes us away from who we actually are, why we're here, what our purpose is on this planet, how the other people got here. Which brings me to something else that I wanted to talk about. In one of my lectures, I talk about the Chiron star. Mm-hmm. And that's very important to us, because we are, as Aboriginal people, star seeds, meaning that everything in the universe, that's what we are. So this is why we can contact the earth and the universe and start to practice our innate abilities to do what like move a mountain, speak to a plant and it shall move, because we are that plant and that mountain, because we come from the universe and the stars. Here's the good thing about that. We, as Aboriginal people, can comprehend that the universe is a womb. But if we look at the planet, so is it. It's constantly giving birth. Plants, our food. And it says, even in the Bible, which is confusing, but it says, I give to you every seed from the ground. Every food for you to eat comes from the ground. It tells you that you have, what's the word I'm looking for?
Is it the manna? No.
A manna comes from, in their analogy, from the heavens. But let's take out the word heaven and call it an expanse, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a ceiling over the planet that is called the expanse. And the more they will learn about the portals that are in the expanse. You know what? And speaking of that, Columbus said himself that the reason he came here, though many think he came here by accident, they actually was looking for this continent. There's proof of that. He came here, he said, I'm looking for Jerusalem. That's where the portals are. That's where the manna is.
Yeah.
That's where the city of peace is. That's where everything is. So you think about why all of these people want to come to this continent, because this is the continent where the most important people live. As a matter of fact, they've been hiding that the oldest people have been found in the Americas. The oldest skeleton, the oldest pyramids, the Grand Canyon, those high places, those are pyramids. They didn't just get here by happenstance.
And in the Grand Canyons, you have cliff cities and dwellings with with hieroglyphs. I challenge you. This is something I did myself. When you're driving, for those who on the West Coast, if you're ever taking that drive from Phoenix to Sedona, Sedona's a beautiful place to take a vacation. If you like to relax, go to Sedona. But on that Highway 17 from Phoenix to Sedona, about 30 miles before you get to Sedona, there's something called Montezuma's Castle. They attribute it to Montezuma, even though they say, Montezuma says, this shit was here way before I got here. They just attribute it to Montezuma because Montezuma is someone that they can color in a light. The first lightest person that they can find, they attributed those caves to him, even though if you read what they say on that, Montezuma was here a couple hundred years ago. These caves are here probably tens of thousands of years ago. So that's how it's on you to learn how to read through their BS, because the
caves themselves have been here since time immemorial.
Yes.
Which means something that's very important. Let me say this and then I'm going to be quiet again. Which is very important for our people to understand. Time immemorial means you're different from God. God has an alpha and an omega. That's a beginning and an end. If you're time immemorial, it tells you, and people write about it. Wow, these people have been here so long, they have no beginning. That's what time immemorial means. You can't put a date on when we got here or how long we've been here. So when somebody else says, well, we came from somewhere else, that automatically tells you that they're not the Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people have no time stamp. They have no beginning. They have no ending. And that is what made it so hard for them to kill us all.
Hey, that's real talk. Because, like, I want to circle back to a few things that you said and highlight. And first, I want to listen again to the audience, to the people in the chat room. Pay attention to what's going on. We can ask some questions later on, but I really want you guys to follow and listen, because this is how information works, and this is where a lot of people get it twisted when it comes to information. When you're getting information, you're getting a sliver of the truth. No matter who's talking, they're giving you a version. Knowledge is whole. So if you hear someone talk about some other group from some other country, yeah, that's true too. But it ain't got nothing to do with this. If you're talking about, who are the Hebrews? Well, the Hebrew stuff existed, great, you know what I mean? But that's not this conversation. If you're talking about who was in Chile and who was in the Aboriginal of Australia, every conversation on history deserves its own time and its own space to be discussed. We've literally been here millions of years, people. You cannot account for all of these different things in one discussion that's going to be an hour or so, okay?
That's right. Yeah.
So this discussion is about this sliver of history and present that has to do with the North American continent and the people that were here. We're going to keep it to that. A conversation about the giants, about the Olmecs, and about this. Certain things may or may not be interwoven, But when we're learning, we want to learn things through proper context. And we can't give proper context if we're conflating the Italians with the Etruscans, with with the Watusi, with people. Pay attention, all right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make that clear. And also I remember when I was in school, these Europeans tell some truths. They tell you when they talk about the Indians, this is the half truth they told us in elementary school. They told us about the Mongoloid being the native. They just said that the Mongoloid was the Native American, and when they came across the Bering Strait 5,000, 2,000 years ago, there was nobody here, and they just settled on the land. And then slaves came from Africa. They don't tell you those people across the Bering Strait came in on civilizations that had already been here. Words I like to always use: Folsom. Anywhere you see a Folsom, that's a dig where Aboriginal people have been back 50,000 plus years. Folsom, New Mexico, Folsom, California, Folsom, Georgia. Name the Folsom. You're talking about the Mojave, the Ohlone here. These are different groups of people who have been here through different expanses in time. So understand that's the scope of what we're talking about right here. Talk to me, because after our first conversation, I did more personal digging in my own family history. And I came across a family having Native American family, American Indian, from the Potawatomi tribe in the Michigan area. Mm-hmm. And then you see pictures of them. I'm lighter than they were. Like, I want to thank you for that, because it's like, man, I found through a cousin of mine, my 6 times great grandmother, she's actually on a picture in the museum up in the Benton Harbor, Michigan area. Tell me more about, some more of the civilization in this area and how it was already metropolitan and mixed with a bunch of different people who look back like us. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, before I can even talk about that, first I need to talk about something else.
Go ahead.
That has to be the foundation to that, which is whenever they talk about the Native American, I'm going to call, when you hear me say Native American, I'm talking about the people who actually came from Siberia.
Yes.
Okay. But when we talk about Aboriginal American Indian, I'm talking about the people who have already been here for millions of years. And one of the things we need to, when they talk about the Aboriginal people, they talk about what they do, what they did. The difference between us is that they're nomadic, they travel, or as one of my friends said, they drag their stuff around with them. We're fixed people. And so what we did when they came here, we already had roads. They talk about that. These people have built roads, homes. We were already we were brick masons in the 1700s when they came here. In the 1400s, this is what they found. We weren't under trees just eating watermelon and sipping beer. We were a hardworking people. We were agriculturalists. We taught them how to farm. So then how in the hell can you possibly say that when you got here, we wasn't doing shit?
My question is, y'all was hungry in Europe. How do y'all not know how to grow shit here, then come over here automatically and build this big old... Even when you look at the building structures in the 1400s and 1300s in England, it ain't got nothing to do with how things look over here. So my question is, if we taught y'all how to hunt, how to farm, then who taught y'all how to build these buildings? Because
exactly, we taught them all of this. So for them to say that these Native Americans, they lived in teepees, well, they did, but not here. We weren't teepee people. We had cities and actually states. We taught them about colonizing. If you look colonies, we didn't call them colonies then, but we already had a constitution. They adopted that constitution from us.
Yes.
And that's why it says it was adopted. They didn't have a constitution. They'll say,
they tell you the truth. We adopted.
Yeah. They adopted our way of life. And then they turned around and said, well, these people didn't live like that. But where did you get it from? If you look at the Constitution, it deals with 3 people: the Indian, the European, and the alien. Period. Now, if you look at that, if the Indian is the alien, what was the point in putting him in there? The Indian is not the alien. Or he would have just been European and the aliens. There's so much common sense that we could look at that we forget about because we've been indoctrinated with their lies. And all lies come from the truth, believe it or not. It gotta have the truth as its foundation. So if you dig through that lie enough, you'll come to the truth.
I tell people all the time, when you want to find, the only way a lie can really hold on and hold weight and stick around for a long time is if it's mixed in with the truth. You have to have a true foundation to all lies. Yeah. And the way people see lies and see communication is misconstrued. They'll say, "Oh well, that part of what that person said is true." Yeah, that part is true, but it doesn't mean what they said is true.
Yeah.
So yes. So we're saying that to say, yes, there was a slave trade, but one part of the slave trade that they don't tell you about, these are I like to connect dots because they'll throw things out there, but they're not going to connect them for you. Rikers Island was started as a prison for the Aboriginal American Indian people that were here. It was a slave catching colony. That's why even right now in Rikers Island, you have people sitting in Rikers Island with no charges because they would get free Aboriginal people, the Algonquin tribes of the area. And it's funny because those are the same tribes that Ben Franklin said he used to go to all their meetings from, and that's who they got. You know what I mean? So they started Rikers Island as a place to capture free dark-skinned people and sell them off to the slave plantations down south. Look up Rikers Island.
You know why though? You know why? Because if they had put them in prison as Aboriginal people, they would have been breaking a constitutional law. Because in the Constitution, even now, the one in Michigan that I look at, it says, 1, you have the right to your own Indian Aboriginal militia. 2, they're not supposed to put us in their courts. If they have a problem with us, they have to take it to our courts. And then we determine how to charge our people. So when you're an African American or an African in America, because there's really no such people as African Americans. When you're an African in America, if they charge you as Black, African American, because those beings have no standing in law, they can do whatever they want to you. This is why we lose so many so much in the court. It's because when you look at the law, a human has no standing in law. Now, a corporation does because it's a person. Humans aren't persons. African Americans aren't persons. Black people is not a person. Those are not nouns. I learned that from somebody else. If you're a person, you have to determine who you are based on the land that you come from or that you arise from. So even Obama said, "I'm not Black," because it has no standing in law. If you're gonna learn something, learn it from the nigga you voted for.
Hey,
he even said it. So he's got sense enough to know that he's not going to step into this country as a Black man. Though he'll say, "I'm just like you." He's African, and he knows he's African, not American.
And that's the thing. These things are all they all tie in and they work together. Another thing I found interesting about my family history, I was able to see how we were free in the Northampton, Virginia area all the way through 1830. And we moved to a settlement in Indiana amongst the Amish because they were saying the slave trade was getting to the point to where it was hard for people to defend themselves from these slave catchers and things like that, so they moved. But the interesting thing I see is the ones from that area, they don't talk about, like in the book itself, it doesn't talk about any, it doesn't come out and per se, hey, we're Indians, but they do talk about how, hey, we were always kind of here. There's no story of anyone coming off of a slave ship. This is just where the family's been. And that's just, you know what I mean? And so,
but you know what, when we go back into, everybody that goes back into their history, who's smart enough to really go back into their history and just be open to what they find. If they find that their people have been here for a long, long time, they will also find that most of them were not slaves. Everyone that has found their original history here that I know, like me, found, well, I'm like, well, wait a minute, my people were never slaves. They owned land. Now, what did happen that they don't want to tell you, and this is why I think it's called HR 40.
Yeah.
Why they say things like, well, we're going to have to go back and look into the history. They don't want to give you reparations because the real slaves were European. Oops. The real slaves that they brought over here were European. Really think about that. They came over here, and this is why the Constitution talks about the alien. They had an agreement with us that when they come on this land, they would bring their own workers, to, so to speak. Most of them were either criminals who wanted to work off their time here, and some of them stayed and they became criminals over here. And you can find a lot of them in our political system today.
Yeah.
Or that some of them decided we want to come over there and work the land because we don't have freedom here in Europe. So we agreed to let them come here on the basis that they would follow the Constitution that we gave them. And this is why you find the Democratic Party right now is saying, we don't want the Constitution. Because if they get rid of the Constitution, they can really run a fucking muck.
Yeah.
Because it's the Constitution that keeps them in line. It's the Constitution that says, because there's a difference in being legal and lawful. They make legal rights, but you can debunk every legal right for what's in the law. And Aboriginal people, hear me out, people, are the law. We're the law of the land. If you can really get that, we are the law of the land. This is why they don't want people to know who we are. Because if we united as Aboriginal people, we could stand on our own course and say, you broke the law, go home.
See, and that's every time I hear someone talking like this, you never hear people talking like you get it. What makes me pique my interest more is that you'll never hear anyone talking like you get any kind of mainstream, any kind of nothing. And I'm the kind of person that like to look at, okay, you know, what's not like the other. People who, and I know we live in a media system that basically gives the mic to people that are talking about things that aren't going to harm the greater good for their society. So when I hear that, and it makes so much sense, you know, let's say again, going back in my family history, I was looking at the white people in my lineage that came here. I found online that the white side came from London in 1660. Like even my white ancestors was the original London folks that was here. And what did she do when she got here? Married a chocolate Indian brother. You know what I mean? Back in 1670. And it didn't say, I'm like, okay, there's more than what they telling me than what's going on here. Again, we're not saying that everyone, that slavery didn't exist. We're not saying that black people and Native Americans weren't enslaved. There's a hell of a lot of us that weren't enslaved. But what we're saying is there's more to the story. It's not a one-to-one connection. If you're black, you were on a plantation, You came from Africa. End of story. That is a story that they've highlighted to be the story. But it's only, going back to what we talked about earlier about framing, it's only one small part of the picture. It's only one small part of the picture. We're bringing you another side of the picture. And I'm able to see where I have family members that were enslaved and down in the Mississippi area, and ones who weren't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So all of it exists at the same time.
Right. Because even on my father's side, when I found my father, the first thing he told me was their lineage. And his family comes from the Robert E. Lee plantation. They were slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on my mother's side, there weren't. And so then, you know, and they tell us, they talk about, oh, this is our great shame. We came from the Robert E. Lee plantation. But see, here's the thing about that. When you look at why they took the women and raped them, it wasn't as much sexual as it was part of breeding us out. And that's what we have to understand the purpose. If you can see that very, okay, sweetheart, you can see that very purpose to breed us out in various lands like Australia. The whole purpose is to breed out those Australians because they know this planet won't work if we're all dead, because we are the soil. We are the universe. We have an interconnection, which is different than having a connection. If in an interconnection and we have three things, you move one of those things, the other two die, or it begins to revolt to the point where everything else on it can't live. So now that they've killed off so many Aboriginal people on this continent, here's why they're hiding what's going on in the sky. And this is what I was trying to get to with that star. The universe is making more stars now. She's preparing to replant and resow so we can reap, or the planet can reap. That's where reap with the sow comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So sowing us back into the planet, we're the only ones who can be sown back into the planet. So what you have them doing now, because, and I don't know, well, let me start here. The blue star that I talk about, we have fail safes in the universe that no matter what happens, we have a 9-year or 9-day, or as the Bible says, 9,000 years. We have 1 week to work on this planet. We're called here for 1 week. Well, our system is based on 9, not 7. So when you get to the 9th day, like where we are right now, you go into zeros, which they're calling the reset. They know there's a reset coming, but they don't have the charge of the reset. The universe has already said we're going to have to reset this. This has happened before, and that's why they talk about a deluge. This has happened before on this planet where after 9,000 years, we ended up with too many aliens on the planet, or too many what we would call hybrids or synthetic beings on the planet, like the Chinese and the Japanese. And I know people don't want to hear that, but hey, you know, that's the truth. You can go look up yourself. There's no phenotype that they can relate to. You look at them and go, where the hell did they come from? Because I don't see a phenotype that they originated from on this planet. So what does the planet have to do? She has to reset it. And so now we're in that great reset. Everybody's looking at the 21st. The first star that came to remove all ambiguity from this planet. All ambiguity. Because, and I can appreciate Trump for that, because Trump was a part of removing all ambiguity. He made it very clear what we're dealing with. 1, vampires. 2, children stealers. 3, people who suck blood. 4, pay attention to what he did when he met the Pope. He's the only president that met the Pope and the Pope was unhappy about it. Why? Because he said to the Pope, we're going into a reset. You know how he said it? They have to give gifts to each other. Trump gave him a gift. You know what that gift was?
What was it?
It was a big box, and in that box, there was every letter and book that Martin Luther King ever wrote was in that box. You know what that's saying? I know who the Aboriginal people are, and I know
Mm.
what you're doing to them. Thus, the doctrine of discovery.
Ah. See, it's
See, we don't know
we
history.
don't know. And you alluded to something because we have something coming up on the you alluded to the 21st, and that's the Grand Conjunction. The Grand
Hmm.
Conjunction with Saturn and Jupiter coming in alignment during the age of Aquarius.
Hmm.
Um, Talk to us more about that. I'm trying to say cosmetology, cosmologically. Okay, I'm messing the word up. Cosmologically,
Cosmic. This we're having a cosmic event. That's
yeah,
the easiest.
cosmologically. How what does that mean to us?
This it's being people who are of the stars, the star people, people who are the universe. It's again a fail safe. This is a time when, and I keep my head in the universe. I'm not gonna lie about it. I know that it's my mission to constantly tell our people who we are, where we are, why we're here, what's gonna happen, what we must do. And I seek the universe. I kept saying to the universe, I don't know. Everybody is saying, oh, when this convergence comes along, we're going to be bulletproof. Well, the universe didn't tell me that we were going to bulletproof. Oh, when this convergence comes along, this is going to happen. So I sought the universe for myself and said, what is this convergence all about? Because we don't know who we are anymore. We don't know our history anymore. And she finally told me after so much seeking, and it was after this ambiguity, you're now going to find out who they are. You're going to see them. That's what's going to be removed. The veil of who we are is being lifted. Now the veil of who they are is going to be lifted.
And that's why a lot of what you're saying, like about Trump, going back to Trump, Trump was lifting Trump. I've always looked at Trump as he acted out how this country behaved from day one. He was just a living manifestation, act out of this country's behavior. The country behaved that way. Now they say a different thing. They have a smooth looking face, somebody who can talk clean, somebody with a nice suit, fresh, saying whatever they got to say. But behind closed doors, Trump is how this country has always behaved. And that goes back to what you were saying about the unveiling of the truth. One thing that people who really want to fix this thing, who really have a love for humanity, a love for who we are, a love for just nature, we want it fixed. And what if it getting fixed means exposing all the dirty little secrets that's going to cause minor inconveniences for people, then so be
No,
it.
they won't be minor.
Or major.
They're
So
going
be
to be
it.
devastating. I
Yeah.
mean, because I looked at, I kept asking, well, what about? Here's the devastation part for our people, is that there are many. If you go back, first of all, this matrix that we're living in is artificial and it's synthetic, also, meaning that we have to go to them for everything. They give us our water, they bottle everything, and now Bill Gates wants to block the sun, which means we would have to even beg for air. So we're not looking at what's really going on here. Why do they want to vaccinate us? Because not only did that first star operate in waking our DNA and what they call junk DNA, there's going to be a movement in our DNA that's we're gonna hit our DNA is gonna heal in order for us to wake or rise and see. Let me give you an example because see they know what's going on. There's a movie, and I can't think of the name of this movie. I think it's called They Live. There's a movie where this man had, I guess, sun eyeglasses, and through these eyeglasses, you could see who all the aliens and the evil people were. The one person he had the hardest time making look at the truth was a black man.
Mm.
He literally had to beat that man up and force him to put the glasses on to look and see what was going on around him.
Yeah.
This is our people today. When this opens up, there are going to be many of us who will probably commit suicide. There's probably going to be many if we don't really wake up, if we don't rise and see what's really going on and accept what is really going on, we're gonna also, let's look at what's the name of that where Neo, what was the name of that movie with
The
Neo?
Matrix.
The Matrix. In that movie, there was one man who was the traitor. He said, I want to go back into the Matrix. Because why? He didn't want to farm. He didn't want to take care of himself. He wants someone to constantly give him welfare. He wanted the taste of the state. There's going to be a lot of our people, and most of them voted Democrat, who wants to be on the tip of the bench.
That's very true.
Exactly what many of them are going to say. I don't want to be awoke. I don't like what you're showing me. And they're going to stay in the shadow government and the fourth world. We are moving into the fifth dimension with this planet. And many of them are not going to want to go. And they're going to get stuck. Here's the thing that I want people to understand. Dimensions do not go away. Dimensions are here to stay. Most of the people who are working in our government, and that's why they call it the shadow government, is because they live in the shadows of the fourth dimension. The shadow is your fourth dimension. In order to move into that fifth dimension, you're going to have to break away from this fake, this artificial hit that they've given us, that we've become so comfortable,
so used to.
Yeah, we're comfortable with it. It's going to be difficult because there's a lot of people who are going to say, I'm not going to give up my car. If look at what's happening. Look at what this. If you don't take this vaccination, you're going to lose your welfare. If you don't take this vaccination, you're going to lose your job. If you don't take this vaccination, you're not going to have anything left. So what are people going to do? They're going to say, oh my gosh, I need gas in my car. I need this. I need that. So they're making it where it's hard for you to determine that you need to move into the fifth world, because in the fourth world, everything is handed to you. What are they creating? What is the fourth world? That is the new world order. And there is people, that new world order is being built on that fourth dimension. What's in that fourth dimension? Let's be honest. Let's be clear. Murderers, thieves, child molesters, rapists. You got to depend on them for everything if you stay in the fourth dimension. And you will get a butt fuck if you stay. Let's just be real. Yeah, that will be your entire life forever.
And let's just tell the truth, man. We people. The Matrix was a very, very real movie, vivid movie, because it's telling us really what we're in. We're our highest selves, the self inside of us that sees things before we see it, that gives us that quiet nudge, that silent talk. Okay. That wide awake self is much, 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 much bigger than who we are here. Yeah. And we are, when they get into the thing, like on Avatar, and they go to sleep. And then we're in the part where once the real you is over here, this little thing over here, knocked out sleep somewhere else, and we're living in a simulation down here, and we live in a world that we can create our own reality. Mm-hmm. And that's why oftentimes when we have these discussions, you talk to a person that's religious, that comes from a church or a mosque, and they, no, we this, we that. They want to just guarantee and drill down and hammer, because they're living a reality. They've chosen to live a reality that someone else created for them. Mm-hmm. And
but here's the thing. We created this reality.
Yeah, we created it.
Yeah, because we're the only ones that can make a world here.
Yeah.
And if you look at like I teach about rituals, because we are the ritual. The Aboriginal people are actual the ritual. In other words, we look at who we are. They tell us that this planet spins. This planet cycles. We cycle. If you don't believe it, going to sleep and waking up is a cycle. It's something that we do. We can't help it. It's part of what we do. We cycle around the universe. Everything cycles around us. So why did they give you this spinning thing? It's because they want you to they want you to be afraid of rituals. They don't want you to know that you actually created the ritual that they're using to destroy you. Christopher Columbus, I talked about this in one of our meetings, and I said the first thing that Christopher Columbus did when he hit these shores was a ritual. You go back and look at that picture. He's on one knee. Everybody else is on one knee. And they're trying to complete this ritual. When you look at the Democratic Party, they held up George Floyd to show their God. We have sacrificed a man. Now we're coming and bending on one knee to pay homage to their ritual that they're trying to bring to a close. We really got to understand that.
I want y'all to look up that ritual, because that one knee thing, that is something that police officers have said on camera that they learned back in Israel. When they now talk about those cops, it's funny. I know a lot of black cops, but I don't know one black cop that went back to Israel. But the non-black cops seem to make it back to Israel, and they have a ceremony. That whole knee in the back of the neck is a ceremonial thing that DeJuan Brown don't have the depth of knowledge to explain that to you adequately. So I encourage everyone watching to go back and do their own information and their own research on the ritual of putting one knee behind someone's neck and how that connects to their culture. So that's just something that's just a nugget of knowledge for y'all to go ahead and research yourself. I've done some research on it, but I can't really break it down to you in an intelligent way. So I want you guys to look it up and formulate your own opinions when it comes to that.
And I will be talking about that more if they want to also get in touch with me. I talk about that even more. And we have this organization called the National American Indian Council of Affairs, which we will be changing.
What's that website?
It's not a website.
Oh, it's not?
But we have a council. We have a council, and it's called the National American Indian Council of Affairs. We're changing the name now to the National Aboriginal American Council of Affairs. But what we do is from our called the Hindsight Project, which is our 501c3. We actually do what we call mass meetings, and we invite people to come and listen. And I talk about these things. And I have a small video that's on my on my YouTube channel. If anybody should email me, I will send that to them and let them look at it. If they also do counseling, should they want to find out more about how they should be thinking, how to erase the doctrine that they're in, and so that they can become more clear on how to think. I also do that too, because we've got to be able to walk away from this thing and see exactly what's really going on. That knee is so important. You will see that one knee goes up and the other one goes down. Or
is your email address the Hindsight Project?
My email address, my personal email address is emahdeborah@gmail.com.
Okay, I need you to. I'm typing that in right now.
Okay.
One more time.
emahdeborah@gmail.com.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and if they email me, I'll be glad to set up any kind of. I'll talk with them. I can counsel, I can help.
Okay.
I'm glad to do that.
Okay, I'm putting your email address in. Okay, I have. You see our email address right here on the screen next to her. That's the email address for those who want counseling, for those who want to know more about what we're talking about here. Tell us more about the Hindsight Project and what you have going on over there.
Well, the Hindsight Project is has always been where we looked up our history and disseminated the information out to the people. It's done more. Now we've incorporated our council in it, and what our council does is we are actually bringing a call to action to the people to have these aliens removed from our continent. So they can also email me to get more information about that. Yes, we do need donations if you can, because it's a lot of work
Mhm.
to get this information out to people. And we want to, if we need the call to action to be to help us um, travel and get this out to people. Say, like, if one of your listeners say, you know what, I would like to know more information. I'd like to invite you to come to our city or our state to talk about a particular thing. They can even bring up what they want me to talk about. Well, these donations help us to do that because it's really important. We are also, man, we're doing a lot of things. We've got a cease and desist order and some other things coming out. We've got information that proves who we are that we want to get to people. We also want to help people be able to find their lineage if they're interested, even if that lineage takes them back to Africa. That's a great thing because they're Aboriginal to Africa. We're still the same bloodline if they're Aboriginal. So our fight is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can just help them with all those kinds of things if they're really interested in finding the truth. And that's really important, is looking for the truth. Someone asked me to say, why, are you looking for God? And I said, I decided to stop looking for God. I'll look for the truth. If he's there, I'll find him.
Yeah.
You'll find
Yeah, you'll
it.
find it.
Whatever is there, you'll find it.
You're 100% right about that.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been great. This has been great. Letting us know just who we are and what we're about. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to you want to get out to the people as far as who we are, what we're about? However you want to close it out, go right ahead.
The most important thing that I'd like for them to know is that they've been misnomered. No matter where they come from, if you're African, then you're not African American. If you're American, you're not black. You're not any of these terms that they've given you to identify by, because none of these terms have any legal or lawful recourse. That's one of the main things I want you to take away from here, that when you go back and look into your lineage, is that you want to remove what the Bible calls the byword and the hiss. And you want to be able to self-identify as the original people. No matter where you come from, that is who you are.
In other words, we need to understand that in we've been lied to in so many ways. And when you've been lied to in so many ways, where to go, what's next, can oftentimes be confusing. The Hindsight Project, Deborah, she personally helps you out with that. So she's not saying, oh, you're African, get away, or
No.
you're Brazilian, get away. She's saying whatever we are, we want to make it clear. And when we make it clear, because when you know the truth about where you come from, you then know which direction that you can head in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're constantly lied to, and you believe those lies, and you're starting from a place of not true, then it's like trying to build a house on sand. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to build a house, I remember I used to do mortgage. You gotta, if you want to build, especially those beautiful houses in Malibu on the beach, where you get to see the ocean and on the mountain, they have to build caissons that's gonna go down to that bedrock. Because if they don't put those caissons down and tie that down to the bedrock, which is truth, which is what truth is foundation, truth is bedrock. If they don't do that, and they just put that on top of that sand, on top of that loose gravel, the next time we have a rain, they're gonna be slipping and sliding down the hill like they was in the early 90s here, you dig? So we're here to bring more information and more truth to broaden the picture. So please, I want you see her Cash App. You see we have it down there. You see the email address. Email for more information. And please, please, please go to the website, and on the hindsightproject.org, there's a place. I'm going to put it up for you right now. Look right here. Here's the website. You can choose an amount to donate, one time, weekly, or monthly. Me personally, I'm about to sign up right now for a monthly amount. because
Thank
I
you.
think this is a great thing. And people always say, well, what we gonna do? Who doing something? Look, everybody ain't gonna have the plan. Everybody not gonna have the dopest idea. Everybody not gonna be able to get it done. But for those who are doing it, we all got a few dollars we can push towards them to help. And that's how we all get things done. Everyone fit and do in their role. And if you can't do, put money behind those who are. I want to thank you again for coming on to our show.
Well, you're welcome. I hope I've been a help to your people. I really hope so.
You've been a
Your
great
audience.
Help. We gonna keep it going a little bit longer, audience. I'm gonna let my guests go. We're gonna keep it talking a little bit, and then I'm gonna sign out a little later. So thank you for coming in. I'll call you when I'm done. Just I'll send you a text message.
All right.
Thank you.
Chipusala people.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me see here. What are we doing here? There we go. That was our guest, Miss Deborah Ishki, Oklahoma. She came in with that real information, telling us who we are, bringing a bigger picture to what's going on. Thank you, Empire Foundation. Thank you for subscribing. That's what we're here for. You know, here at Hotep Ish, Intelligent Ish Talk, the home of the profound and the profane. I talk a lot of shit. Yeah, of course. I'm a Gemini. Shit. I'm gonna talk shit and give you information. I'm gonna crack jokes. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk about things that may make people draw some insecurity because we're talking about things that aren't popular or don't fit the mainstream ideals. But the whole point is to develop a conversation. These Democrats are always talking about having a conversation. Y'all listen to them when they say we want to have a conversation with white folks. Difference is, when they want a conversation, they want a conversation on their terms. They don't really want a full conversation. They don't want to present all points of view. They want to present a small point of view and have a conversation within that slither of information. We want to expand that. So this past Thursday, we had Brother Siddiqui Bakari. He was talking about things from a metaphysical point of view, from more of an African-centered point of view. Today, we had Sister Deborah Ishki, Oklahoma. And y'all don't know, she used to be with Motown back in the day, too. We're going to talk about, next time I have her on, we're going to talk about some Motown stuff, because she got some history when it comes to our music. But she's bringing the Aboriginal history that's also true. Books like They Came Before Columbus. Books like The First Americans Were Africans by Dr. James David Imhotep. Someone in the chat room earlier mentioned Brother Clyde Winters. Clyde Winters has another book where he talks about this kind of stuff. So everybody has a piece of information. You got your Hebrew Israelite brothers out there. I don't, I mean, I'm always cracking jokes, but they got something to say. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not with them when they want to talk about all of us is from the line of Judah, and where was the original ones from Judah? Like, look, nigga, on the Bible, can you please stop yelling? Please, just read the Bible to me, and let that be it. All that yelling on the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson while I'm trying to get my ribs from Woody's is too much, homeboy. So outside of that, I ain't got no issue with the Hebrew Israelites. But they do have their slither of knowledge. The Kemetic people, they have their sliver of knowledge. That's also true. You got your you got your Nawapians out there. You got look, all y'all are telling part of the truth. The thing is to stop running around acting like you telling the whole truth. Don't nobody got the whole truth, god damn it. Nobody got the whole truth. The whole point is to listen to what you can listen to and take what you can take from it. Both Malcolm and Martin were right. And Stokely Carmichael. And Du Bois. And Booker T. Marcus Garvey. Elijah Muhammad. They all were right from their point of view. And if we take the parts of their game that where they saw clearly and use it and apply it, and just not fuck with the shit that don't work instead of arguing over it, we'll be good. Jeff Brown. What's up, Jeff? Joining us from the Facebook side of the game. Hebrew Israelites, angry like hellfire and brimstone, dressed like earth and fire. You damn right. Why every Hebrew Israelite, it's always one Hebrew Israelite that look like Verdine White, from the bass player from Earth and Fire, with all that hair and shit. Like, nigga, if you don't go play the bass and sing Serpentine Fire and get the fuck out my face. One punchline said, Dewan got a frame like a Hummer. That's funny because Hummer was your mama's nickname. All the niggas at the gym called her that because she hummed on balls fresh before they got in the shower. Yeah, man. You're right, Service King. Utah Mormons, they have a lot of our history. They do. The Mormons got a lot of our shit. Our history is, the way it's presented to us, is so fragmented, man. It's so goddamn fragmented. So the only way, and Dr. John Henry Clark said this, get my t-shirt at hotepbitch.com. Your Scholars t-shirt. Here, y'all see this. This shirt's been selling like hotcakes. Y'all don't want to miss out. You do not want to miss out. I've sold, thank you for everyone who's bought this t-shirt. As a matter of fact, we've sold a couple hundred, and it's only been out for less than a month. So I thank for everyone who's bought this t-shirt. Like, it's been, every morning I wake up, it's, 3 or 4 that was sold overnight. So I appreciate y'all for this shirt. But like Dr. John Henry Clark tells us, our history has been mumbled and jumbled and it's been vomited back out. But don't throw the vomit out, because within the vomit, you can see the contents of what was consumed. You sift through it and see what goes where. And yes, it's nasty and stinky. Anytime you gotta deal with wet Europeans, it's gonna be nasty and stinky. But god damn it, we gotta do it anyway. There ain't no fucking excuse. The problem is, we'll hear one person say something that's true, and then we'll take that as the whole truth, and then we'll argue with other people who take someone else that says something is true, and you'll lose friendships over that, man. I don't know what's wrong with that nigga. He seeth this way and I seeth that way, and I'm right and he's wrong. No, motherfucker. You got some dope, you have a dope slither of information, and he got a dope slither of information. Why don't y'all sit down and talk it out, and then keep on reading more goddamn books and find out more slithers of information? Again, like I said before, even if you have a college degree, what's a degree? What really is a degree? I'm keeping this up here. I'm gonna put this, matter of fact, I'm put this right above my head. That's a degree right there. Right there. That's a degree. Knowledge is 360. The truth is whole. They don't tell you when you go to college, they don't say, look, you completed your 4 years. Now, here's this certificate of knowledge. They don't give you a certificate of knowledge. They give you a degree of knowledge. What's 360 divided into 1? That rounds off to 0.003. Which means you don't even have 1/3 of 1% of information when you get your degree. You just got that one slither of knowledge, a degree of knowledge. In the old Kemetic schools, them motherfuckers had to go to school for 40 years to become a priest. 40 years. When they say Moses disappeared for 40 years, where was he? In that Moses story that they like talking to y'all. If Moses was in Egypt and nobody knew where he was for 40 years, is it because he was in the mystery schools? I don't know, but it took 40 years. Remember that. We don't know it all. I don't know it all. I'm just here to give y'all a little small slither of knowledge that I have in my head. And hopefully you listen to other people with more knowledge. One punchline, I see you keep asking, why do the Mormons have our stuff? Well, the Mormons got a lot of our history and stuff because the Mormons were a lot of your traders, a lot of your bookkeepers when it came to the slave trade. Everybody participated in this. The Mormons, the Jews, the Christians, the agnostics. If they had white skin, they played a part in it. And Mormons had a lot of slaves. If you look up Biddy Mason, godmother of Los Angeles, California, she was a midwife and she came from Utah. And she was enslaved in Utah, even though Utah wasn't officially a part of the South. They were still slave motherfuckers in Utah. And her owner came down here to San Bernardino, California. And then she found out that California is a state that doesn't allow slavery. So she left her place and she left the slave master, the Mormon slave master in San Bernardino, moved to what's now downtown Los Angeles, became a midwife. That's why she's called the godmother of LA, because she birthed so many people here in the city of Los Angeles. She birthed so many people, she made so much goddamn money that she bought what's now over there 6th and Spring Street. For those of you from LA, that's like where the Walt Disney Hall is. That's where all those high-rise buildings, where all the downtown is. That land was owned by a black woman named Biddy Mason, who was born a slave to a Mormon in Utah by way of San Bernardino through LA, and became one of the richest landowners in the city of Los Angeles during the 1800s. So yes, if you want to know more about your black history, the Mormon Church, for those who were enslaved, is a great place to go and look. And I do want to go back and circle back on something Miss Oklahumma said earlier when she was talking about the building technology. Look, people. Look. Put 2 and 2 together. If you look at the building structures in Europe and look at the building structures here in the United States, different technologies. Black people, even the ones who were enslaved, they weren't just picking cotton. There's a man named Horace King. There are a lot of people, like a lot of the designs. You look at Benjamin Banneker, who built Washington, D.C. Where did they get that information from? Who taught it to them? The European hasn't taught anyone anything. You can't name anything on earth that the European taught to any other group of people other than Scud missiles and nuclear weapons. Outside of that, you can't name anything that Europeans have come and taught anybody anything. If they learned their music from us, if black cuisine is American cuisine, that means they learned their food from us. Why didn't they learn their buildings and how to structure cities from us? Jean du Sable, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Look up Jean de Sable. He's the founder of the city of Chicago. They say he Haitian, but there's also been discussions about him also being a chief locally in the area. And you don't become a chief unless you're full blooded. All I'm saying is there's a lot of our history that's left out. Shouts out to cats like Tariq Nasheed for unveiling this. Shouts out to cats like Dr. Randy Short for talking more and more about this. Because, we need to know more about it. Dr. Carl Anderson been talking about this Bobby Hemmett been talking about this. John Henry Clark has talked about it, but he didn't go too deep into it, but he did talk about it. And this is the book I've been telling y'all about that I've been reading. This is like with my family. Southern Seed, Northern Soil. I think it's out of print, but they do have copies that are still around. And I'm just finding out more about what black folks was doing here during the time of slavery who were free and where they come from. These books do exist. The information is out there. The whole point is just to read it and triangulate it, the information, and find out what works best for you. That's a good point you made there, Angel. I understand not using the term black. I get it. That's a paradox, because there's a good time like anything else. There's a good time and a bad time for anything. I use oftentimes the black has to be the term used as an operative term because it just cuts through to where someone could just tell the story. If you come in saying Aboriginal American people here before 1828 identified copper gold, that's gonna take the conversation to where it's just gonna distort the conversation. So you'll use a term like that for the operative term, but at the same time, understanding the identity, knowing the legal ramifications of using the term black legally and how there isn't much protection. All of it has a place, but you got to find that shit out for yourself. I want to make this last point before I get the fuck up out of here. This is something I played this earlier on screen. But I wanted to make sure I pointed this out to people. The original definition of an American. You can see the website I got this from. Webster's Dictionary, 1828. American, pertaining to America. Adjective. American, noun. And this is what Noah Webster was saying in 1828. A native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races, found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Pull out a penny. What color is that motherfucker? So people running around talking about the American Indians, they over here telling us that Native Americans, motherfuckers, they telling us Native Americans look like Chevy Chase. The fuck? You telling me Native Americans look like Justin Timberlake? No. That's some shit that they took. Why would they take it? To separate the people who belong under it from their land rights. Why not? My family's Potawatomi, Michigan area. I tried to get back on them Potawatomi rolls. You know what they said? You have to be a lineal descendant of someone on the official roll of the Potawatomi. Well, guess what? When my Potawatomi 6 times great grandmother got married to her husband, they left the reservation and them motherfuckers moved. They moved up to Benton Harbor. They were from a different area where they were. They moved up to Benton Harbor, different Benton Harbor, shit to LA. There wasn't no damn roll. But the white folks who came in after got on that roll. My grandmother wasn't thinking about signing no damn roll. She got married. Now she identified as Negro because she married one and she off living her best life. They didn't have email back then to say, hey, make sure you put yourself on this roll so your grandkids can get some money. Them $5 Indians got on that roll. and made sure to write the shit to where my black ass can't get on the motherfucker. Research your family history. I guarantee you, you have a similar story. I guarantee you, you have something. Because when you go back 4 or 5 generations, now you're literally talking about dozens and dozens of ancestors. Just go back 5 generations, you have dozens. So out of those dozens, somebody or a few got some stories. Some bullshit. Thank you, Lovelace. Donate to the Cash App if you feel so inclined. Please do. We always use everything. We always use everything for a good reason, for a good purpose. So go ahead and donate. But when you write about that Iron Manifesto, when the white supremacist is in charge of classifications, you can guarantee some fuck shit's gonna happen. Because they're a group of fuck people. When a group of fuck people got the fucking pen, they're gonna do some fuck shit. You can expect it. But we can donate, and I will be putting a monthly donation in on her website. I will be doing that because I can't do what she's doing, but I can put money behind what she's doing. I can do that. So if all of us do $10, $20, not nothing big, 10, if everyone in here does $10 a month for, and she didn't, Miss Oklahoma didn't ask me to do this. I'm telling you right now. She didn't ask me. She did not ask me to do this. This is just what I'm gonna do out the bottom of my heart. This is where I'm at with it. I'm doing $25 a month. Just being, it's not a whole lot, but I figure if all of us can do a little bit of something, and as people who watch this video moving forward can do something, it'll be a great help because it's something that we're all going to benefit from. I ain't got no issue putting $25 up on goddamn. That's just between appetizers and drinks at the Cheesecake Factory, not including everything else. So I could do this for her too, and what she has going on. Grab your Dr. John Henry Clark T-shirt. Please do, and remember this. I'm about to get up out of here. We're gonna have some more stuff coming for you. Craig Facts on Tuesday and Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Watch that last episode of Craig Facts. We roasted so goddamn hard. We was killing the shit out of Malcolm. Y'all seen Malcolm on his show. We killed that nigga. But we went right from killing them off with the jokes to telling y'all about y'all accounting, how to account your money and how to invest your money. So on Craig Facts, we be cracking jokes and shit, but we be giving you game and information. How to buy a car, how to buy a house, what tax look like, how to set up your LLC, where to go to set up the LLC, where to go to get your business cracking. All that shit we talk about on Craig Facts in between the funny. So yeah, watch Craig Facts, man. I love that show. And we got some big shit coming for you. We got some big shit coming your way. Me, Craig, we got some big shit planned for y'all. So I want y'all to look out and remember on the relationship tip, communication coaching, info at breakthroughas.org. My website is going to be up pretty soon, but for those who need help on the communication tip, you want to set up a consultation, you ain't quite getting the wording right, the messaging right with the people you love, set up a consultation with me. Email me info at breakthroughas.org. Remember this as I sign off. There are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to listen. Be willing to listen and you'll pick up the game. My name is Dewan B. We out.